We are so happy to have you here with us today for our May 2022 virtual job fair. Now, we are going to kick off our presentation today by talking to Anto from Amex. So Anto, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Meg. Always a pleasure. Very happy to be here. American Express partnership with Power to Fly is fantastic. A 4+ year experience that just gets better and better every year. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'm a recruiting manager. I work with a couple of systems that you can see here with very long names. And one of the things that I've been doing over the last year is I've had an active role in our inclusion and DEI group. There's a lot of events happening, this being one of them. And it's just great. The things that I can tell you about American Express, the most impactful is you can bring your authentic self to work every day. There is flexibility with regards to what your schedule is like, to take care of your personal or family life and things like that. This is a company that we're a solution company. It's not just a credit card. It's not just travel services. It's not just payment solutions for small businesses and large businesses alike. It is a company that helps make your life easier in any way that we possibly can. And we're delighted to be here, and we're delighted to support Power to Fly, and we're looking forward to having a great conversation. Thank you for moving to the next slide. There's tons of volunteer opportunities. We're always on the front page of when there's support, whether it be the very unfortunate circumstances happening in the Ukraine, or if there's a natural disaster or something like that. We care about the communities that we do business in. We've helped to preserve historic sites and have taken care of developing affordable housing units and grants and many things. And everything on this slide just reinforces the way that I feel every day, which is this company is filled with a lot of great individual community citizens, and we're good to the communities that we participate in. So thank you for sharing it. It's eye-opening every time I get to read a slide like this. It's just such a positive place to be.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anto. Next, we are going to hear from Octa. So Sonali, why don't you take it away?
Great. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, first of all. Let me take a few minutes to introduce myself. I am a senior manager for the solutions engineering team at Octa. I've been at Octa 8+ years now. I manage a team of very fierce sales engineers, and we collectively work with our customers and partners to educate them about our solutions, to sell our solutions, and to really help customers solve their problems. In terms of my personal journey, I'll say that I am originally from India. I grew up there. I came to the US for my master's education, my grad school, and have loved it ever since. So I've been here, more than 24 years now. I've been in the tech industry. I've done every job in tech, starting from testing software to development to post-sales implementation to now I'm customer facing. So now it's more sales engineering. But through my journey, I think I've absolutely loved working with customers, and that is a great segue to the next slide, as I feel like I should talk a little bit about Octa's core values. Like I mentioned, I've been here 8 years. It's been a fantastic ride with this company, and I think a huge reason or huge part of that is Octa's culture and Octa's values. The first and foremost I'll mention is love our customers. And this is something I feel I've experienced at Octa from day one. When I joined, Octa was a small company. We were maybe 300 employees. Today, we are a lot bigger than that. We have more than 15,000 customers. But the one thing that stayed consistent is the fact that we are always looking for ways to make sure our customers are successful. And that's something consistent at all levels within Octa. It comes down from our leadership down to the teams that are in the field helping our customers. And we do that in part in two ways, I would say, by being transparent and by having integrity, because those two things are extremely important to our culture. I think transparency is something that externally at Octa, meaning with our customers and partners, that's important to be honest and truthful with them. But also internally, our leadership is extremely transparent. We have weekly calls with our executive leadership. Our CEO most of the time hosts, the weekly call with every one of us. And they're extremely transparent about internal communication, which is very refreshing for me. I've worked at other companies, and I think Octa was, a breath of fresh air when I came here. The other thing I'll mention is now I'm in a manager role. Empowering our people is extremely important, because people come here to work, people come here to grow, and we have to make sure that we create that environment for them. We give them opportunities to educate themselves, to go out and learn new things. We support all those efforts, and that in part, I think, helps us build our internal brand, because my sales engineers represent Octa when they go and talk to customers. And I want them to be to feel passionate about what they do. So that's another thing that's extremely important. And the last but not the least is never stop innovating. I think, as a tech company, being in the identity and access management space, being in the security space, this is a really crucial function for companies. And, we realize that even though we have a great product, we have to, constantly keep innovating. We have to constantly improve. We have to, help our customers with new solutions. And so, that's something I think that's driven, again, from our leadership. We call ourselves a company of builders, and I sincerely believe we are. And so, yeah, I think that's I think what I'd like to share about, working for Octa for the last 8 years.
That is wonderful, Sonali. Thank you so much for sharing all that very amazing information about Octa. Y'all's culture and values are really, really great, and we love partnering with Octa here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, next we are going to hear from Dassault Systems. Michael Russo is here, a frequent flyer at these events. So Michael, take it away.
Great. Well, first and foremost, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And to Power to Fly, as always, thanks for having us again. And yes, I am. I think this is probably my 8th or 9th event with Power to Fly. I love partnering with Power to Fly. I believe a lot in their platform, and really helping to partner with Dassault Systems as we work on really creating a culture. We're creating a culture of inclusion and diversity, and so this is a great platform for us. So thank you. At Dassault Systems, I'm going to probably go off script a little bit, but we are a software organization. Software platform is what we sell to our customers. We use that platform internally. We are a large global international company. We have just over 22,000 employees worldwide, and we're in over 160 locations. We are in a growth mode. We are expected by 2025 to be over 44,000 employees globally. And as a recruiter, I got to tell you, that scares me a little bit. For anybody else that's recruiting on the phone, I'm like, how do we get there? We do grow a lot by through mergers and acquisition, and there's natural growth as well. But we have some very lofty goals in terms of where we're going in the next few years. And one of the things that I love about Dassault Systems, I've been here for 8 years now. We are a very financially sound and stable organization. During the pandemic, our CEO had addressed the business to say, look, we're going to do everything we can not to have to go through any layoffs during the pandemic. And I'm very happy to say that that didn't happen. And though I wasn't here in 2009, when the economy really tanked and was doing very poorly, the same thing, our CEO had addressed the business then to reassure everybody and say, we're going to do everything that we can, do more with less, but so that we don't have to lay off any of our workforce. And again, during that time, it didn't happen. So the company is very financially sound and stable. To share a little bit about our culture and our values, these are 4 of our value statements. If we challenge the status quo, we can imagine new horizons and improve the world. If we bring our community together, we can build harmony to achieve our goals. If we have the passion to learn, we can expand creativity to navigate the future. And if we show the dream is possible, we can inspire people to create it. I want to share a bit about that in terms of if we challenge the status quo. So I am one of the founding members of a pride group that we have here at Dassault Systems. We are a French-owned organization. So in France, as far as when diversity is being looked at, it's a little bit more of the male, female, or gender diversity. And here in the US, we know that we have other pillars of diversity, and we want to work with all underrepresented groups and also talk about that intersectionality piece. So we've challenged the status quo, and through a grassroots efforts, we created a pride group. We do have a women's initiative group. And for the purposes of today of AAPI, we do not have an AAPI group yet per se, like an employee resource group. We're working towards that. In the last 2 years, we held our first inclusion series. We had a 5-week inclusion series, and now we just are in the process of another one. We have one more session next week, but we did our first Stop AAPI Hate session last week, and we worked with somebody from the Council of Stop AAPI Hate out in California. It was truly an amazing experience. As open as I am to diversity, I always learn something new. So it's an exciting time to be here because we really are changing and shaping the future, and we're creating a culture that we want, not a box checking culture, but a culture that is inclusive, where you can bring your whole selves to work. And I think that you had said that, Anto, and it's really where we want it to be. So we're doing a lot of influencing now. We're doing some of that influencing from the bottom up, and we're trying to get some of that top-down influencing as well. So it's an exciting time to be here. If you like a company that's about innovation, a company where we have an open culture to express our creative ideas and to really build that workforce of the future, that is us. So thank you for your time and letting me share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anto. Or sorry, I've been looking at Anto's
No
video right now,
no
right
worries.
above my chat. Thank you so much, Michael. It's a really, really great introduction to an amazing company. And I honestly had no idea that you've been on that many events with us. I remembered you from like at least 3 or 4. I had no idea it's like double that. So that is super, super exciting. Thank you so much for sharing all of this about Dassault with us. All right, so this is going to take us into our breakout, or sorry, this is going to take us into our discussions with the panelists today. So hold on here, let me stop sharing my screen. Oh, but before I stop sharing my screen, just want to highlight for y'all the survey link, the QR code that's at the upper right-hand corner of that slide. That will take you to a max 1-minute survey. Promise, it does not take long to fill out. We really, really, really need and appreciate your feedback. Real people read these survey results. I used to be one of them. And we make concrete changes to these events based on what y'all tell us. So like I said earlier, we want to make sure that the time that you spend with Power to Fly is well worth it. So tell us where we're doing well, but even more importantly, tell us where we can do better for you. What would you like to see changed? What would make this more fun, more engaging, more easy, more informative, whatever. Let us know, please. We very much value your feedback. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen share here. And then we're going to talk to our partners from the various companies about some of the great stuff in their various orgs. So one of the first things that I wanted to kind of start with is talking about inclusive culture at each of your groups. Now, I know that we've got really great company reps here for us to talk to, but if one of the company reps, if y'all want to answer the question, use the raise your hand feature. That way I can make sure everybody gets a chance from the group to answer if they would like to. All right, so let's talk specifically about inclusive culture at your different orgs. Now, I know that obviously this week's focus is on the AAPI experience and helping that group to bring their very authentic selves to work in a safe manner. Let's talk about how you build that inclusive culture at your various companies. Sonali, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Very happy to start. So I would say I'd start off by saying that I feel it's important to make people feel included, but part of that is making sure that we don't treat people differently. So I think that treating people equally is high on my list as far as that goes. And creating the environment is about getting to know individuals. So at least for me on my team, it's important to get to know people's backgrounds, get to know them individually, make sure that I talk to them one-on-one every week. And not just about their professional lives, but also anything that they would like to share with us. The other thing I try to do is on team calls, which we do every week, I try to get the team together. I encourage people to, and by the way, I'm saying this for myself, but this is across Octa, right? This is kind of the culture that I'm used to since I joined Octa, which is, you get on these open discussions or open team calls. We encourage people to share experiences that shape them, and we want people to share that. We want people to feel that the space is safe and open for them to voice their feelings about something, and obviously we do that with the utmost respect for each other. But we've always at Octa tried to build that environment where we trust people and we make them feel that, they can voice their opinions.
That's so important. It's so important to not only ask for these answers, or ask for these questions, but what happens after that is hugely impactful. It's not just about making people feel heard. I've spent 6 years in customer service. I know how well and how effective that tactic can be to really, get your hands around a problem and work with another person to improve the conversation. But yeah, it's also incredibly important and great to know that Octa is listening to the feedback, is trying to provide these places where people feel safe to bring their full selves to work. This was a huge concern within the LGBTQIA community several years ago, and honestly, some places it very much still is. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're right. It's very important to shine a light on how you create these cultures that help support the mission of your company. All right, Michael and Anto, would either of you like to touch on this before we go to our next question? Anto, you want to go first?
Sure. I think, first of all, I have to say, we're very happy that, I'm very happy about Sonali's answers. It mirrors a lot of some of the same things that we're doing. Actually, I was using Octa on my way to work today to help do some things. So we appreciate that you also have a good product and a good culture as well. For American Express, there are certain company blue box values and leadership behaviors that are important. And without going through all of them, the one that resonates with me for this question is that you bring others with you. So having a diverse team with a lot of different perspectives and including them, that's really the key to success. This has always been a part of what we've done, but particularly over the last 18 months, there has been a renewed focus on it. And it's not a coincidence that they've been some of our more successful months. Inclusion doesn't mean everyone attends the meeting, but then doesn't get a voice. You make sure to include people's voice. And sometimes people, especially for my team, like some of the more junior people, like it might involve a little bit of prodding, like I definitely want to know what your opinion is versus just being there in attendance. I think our company does that really well, both from a access to senior leadership and people that I get to talk to often. I really like that about American Express. So those different perspectives are important, but not just having them exist, but actually giving that invitation to be a part of the conversation is really important. And that's something that I've noticed that we've done well recently.
Yes. Oh, I love this. You're right. I mean, it's you hear the kind of party metaphor, the dance metaphor, or the table metaphor, and you're right. Having these people in the room is very important, but it's only effective if you are allowed to contribute. If you are actually listened to, as opposed to, we just need you to sit in that seat, like fill that spot. And I mean, I've said it again. I've said it once. I've heard it from 1,000 people. I'll say it again. Like when you're trying to tackle problems that you have not yet been able to solve, you need different perspectives. You cannot keep using the same tools to try and solve a problem if it's not working. You need to try something else. And it's incredibly important to have those voices and to make sure that they're included, they belong, they want to be there. Lovely.
So
Mike, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say, just to piggyback real quick on what Anto and Sonali said. So the invitation piece, one of my colleagues used to say, the invitation to the party is that diversity piece, but to be truly included is to be asked to dance.
Yes.
And I love that analogy. And Sonali had talked about asking folks and not singling anybody out. And I think that's the important piece. As we're building what we're building, we're asking employees. We have a Great Places to Work survey. As we're doing this inclusion and diversity series, we're asking people what they want, what they need, because I truly believe for all employees to be included, they want to see themselves. They want to see themselves in other people. They want to see themselves in leadership. So I think it's important to ask them what they need. And, some of this right now is being put on or directed by HR, and that is not going to create that inclusive culture. So we want to invite others and have others, join the process. So it's not just being driven by HR, but it's being driven by our employee population. So I think it's important to invite, include, ask, and be open to things that are different from what that's the only way to truly make it inclusive.
Yes. Oh, y'all, you're blowing my mind here. It's always wonderful to hear these kinds of things from our partners. It's not surprising, I will tell you, but it is absolutely incredibly gratifying to continuously hear such amazing things about the companies that we love working with. All right, so let's talk a little bit more broadly here, and let's talk about kind of some ways that you have invested in mentorship and growth opportunities. Now, obviously, our focus is still on AAPI individuals, but I want to know how you've done this for AAPI, working parents, various groups with and intersectionalities within your employee base. Let's see, Anto, do you want to start with this, talking about kind of that mentorship and career development?
Happy to. Learning and development and mentorship are essential to making sure that people feel engaged and fulfilled, and happy people, I feel, work harder and they produce better results. So at American Express, there's a couple of things that come to mind. We have a partnership with the Harvard Business Institute and Cornell University for e-learning that isn't just general, it's very much like directed towards your career path. Part of those programs involve feedback from your leader. I'm involved in one right now, and I have a couple of people on my team that are involved right now. I'm very pleased about that. And for networking purposes, there's a buddy system for when you first come to American Express and technology, where you get to know some people that have a little bit more experience. In addition to that, there's affinity networks like yesterday, we had a webinar for the Asian American Pacific Islander group, where we had one of the actors that I really enjoyed, Penn. I enjoyed his work early on.
No way.
He came on and he was talking about his experiences in college and how he joined the Indian Student Association and that everyone was a software engineer. And when he said I was doing film studies, like the moderator was like, "Is this a joke?" He said, "No, that's not a joke. This is what I want to do." And it was just so eye-opening because this isn't like 30, 40 years ago. He was in college in the mid 90s. And we take it's an interesting perspective that our internal events don't only involve people that work here. Like we do things like that often. And I think it's an eye-opening thing because it just feels more real to me when we're able to do that. And not everyone can do that. It's a nice thing that we get to experience from time to time. But overall, I really like the career paths, the LinkedIn learning that we have. Like, we want to make sure that we grow and develop people. And it doesn't mean you have to be like a customer service professional and then a leader of customer service, or you have to be an engineer and that's it. Like, people kind of cross their career streams often here with that support. And I think that's what adds to a successful organization, is you give people a lot of options and the tools to do it. So
Coming in with the big facts here, Anto. I'm loving it. All right, Sonali, let's talk to you about what it's like at Octa in terms of, mentorship, professional development for groups like AAPI, like LGBTQIA+, like Black and Brown workers. What does this look like at Octa?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say at Octa, there's within our larger diversity and inclusion group, there's, they partner with senior leaders as well as many employee resource groups that are created within Octa. So, I'll name some of them. There is, women at Octa and women in sales engineering and the people of collective cultures group. There's Pride at Octa. There's Vets for Octa, right? There's so many different groups for people to, network with, I guess, similar-minded people or people of similar backgrounds. There's a lot of initiatives that these groups do. They also provide resources as well as support, reading material, education around issues. I mean, the one thing I'll say is, I didn't grow up in this country. I pretty much my whole adult life was, I grew up in India. So for me, coming here and working in this culture, everything is a learning experience. And there are a lot of things that I just don't know, these are things that I learn about people or people's cultures over here. And I think Octa's been fantastic at providing that channel, providing collaboration groups on our Slack where people can, socialize, they can talk about different things. Apart from that, though, I think you talked about growth here. I think in terms of growth, the company does have mentorship programs. I've been part of that. I've been part of a leadership mentorship program where, I had a mentor from a different company in a different country, and we would talk like every month. And to me, I mean, that was a mind-blowing experience because, this person was from a third country that I don't have much context to. And I learned about how they do things. He mentored me. I learned so much from him. That was invaluable, the program. And that was something Octa gave me. We have buddy programs. So when we have new hires, we buddy them up with somebody so that they don't feel that they're just alone, going through training material in an island. You want people to feel from day one that they are part of something, that they belong here. And so I think Octa does a fantastic job with that.
Oh, it sounds absolutely wonderful. Michael, do you want to round us out and tell us what career development and professional mentoring and that kind of thing looks like at Dassault?
Yes, absolutely. So, Some of it is a little bit more informal. When I joined the organization 8 years ago, I had somebody in HR who I went to and said, hey, are you willing to do some mentoring with me? So my own experience was one of a really good, where I had actually 2 leaders that helped mentor me. And that's very much the culture. If you go to somebody and you ask or you want support, it's a very supportive environment. I love what Sonali had just said, whether it's somebody local or one of my colleagues in Canada or somebody in France, it's great to get different perspective on different cultures. On a little bit more on the formalized side, we have a program called the Rise Up program, where folks go through a little bit more of a formalized mentorship and leadership program and training, especially those who maybe want to further their career, whether it's they want to do management or go into another aspect of the business. We don't specifically have anything at this time for, let's say, I know today we're focused more on the AAPI group, but it's not specific to any group. It's for everybody. Rise Up did start out a little bit more as being a program for women in the company, and again, and being inclusive. Now men can be a part of it as well, but predominantly it started because we do have a goal to grow our female leadership population to 35% by 2025. So we have that. And then we do have a buddy system as well. Like, when somebody joins, usually their manager in a group will pair somebody up so they're not alone. We really try to promote managers taking folks to lunch on their first day, maybe knowing or meeting somebody like their recruiter or somebody else in HR. We do a formalized onboarding, and that's so that people, as they are onboarding, do not feel alone. And again, we have work to do. I don't want to say that it's perfect today, because it is not, but the conversations are there on how do we improve and make it better. And one of the other things I want to mention, because I think 1 or 2 of my colleagues from our university program are here and going to be in the early career professionals breakout room, we have a graduate program as well. And the graduate program, students are going through, or the grads are going through a rotation and working in different aspects of the business so they could determine where their strengths are and where they would like to go next. And we're getting ready to go into our second round of that, and it's been a huge success so far.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear. Thank you, Michael. And I love the attitude involved of like, we don't have this yet, but this, knowing that this is something that is on people's minds, we want to fill this. We want to provide that support to your employees. I love this. All right, let's kind of pull back a little bit and let's talk about what it is like for a new hire. What do y'all do, especially in this kind of virtual / hybrid / whatever world we're living in right now? How do you help new hires to feel welcome and really feel part of the team? Michael, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we have a day 1 orientation and a day 4 orientation, and then we also do a 90-day. So whether somebody's in one of our offices, in their geographic location, or they're on the Zoom call, on that first day, there is a call. So all new employees are on that call. They spend time with their managers in the morning, and then they go through their process. So whatever group they start with, they'll usually go through their Thursday, day 4 call, and they'll go through their 90-day with. We do things like we send out a welcome packet that has a lot of little goodies and swag in it, for the company. Again, somebody greets, if they're there in person, somebody greets that employee in the morning in person, again, whether lunch or breakfast. And then the same thing, if somebody's remote, maybe they're getting on with their manager first thing that morning. Again, all of us, whether you're in TA or you're part of our people value services team, the back end of HR, somebody's HR business partner, we try to have people meet them, reach out to them, welcome them. So again, they have different resources to go to, and they don't feel isolated, and they're not just sitting there reading through and just going through a bunch of online trainings. It could get a little tedious if you don't have some of that human interaction, again, whether Zoom or in person. And as much as possible, now that we're getting to somewhat of a post-pandemic world, we try to do as much as we can in person so that people get that interaction and get to see our office and engage.
Ooh, I like that. You're right. I mean, it is very important to make those personal connections. And I think a lot of us realized over the course of the pandemic that like how important some of that is. And, there are plenty of ways that like the working world can be just as great and even more so virtually. But you're right, there's really no exact replacement for that in-person contact, or at minimum, kind of like Anto was talking about, that buddy thing, like having somebody that you can go to, especially when you're not, in an office where you can just walk down the hall and be like, hey, how do I do this? Like, it's really, really great to hear. Sonali, what does it look like? What does the new hire experience look like at Octa?
Yeah, the new hire experience is, in my opinion, really fun at Octa, because you start off by getting a bunch of swag in the mail, which is always cool. But once somebody starts, they have the first week is just orientation, IT orientation, sales orientation, things like that, touch point with the manager. But once they have started, they have a formal about 90-day training program. At least on our team, sales engineering, they go through a very structured program of education, classes, certification exams. They have the buddy that guides them through it. They have the manager that typically speaks to them at least like once a week, a good touch point, but I make myself available whenever needed. The other thing I'll mention is the social aspect of this, because I always feel like, that's one of the most important things for people to connect with each other. So when we get on team calls, when we have someone new on the team, I typically do something like a rapid fire, like 10 quick questions, just to get to know them, their passion, their interests, music, sports, just so people can connect on things that are outside of work. And honestly, you'll be surprised how many people, once someone says something, they're like, oh my God, my kid goes to the same coach as your kid, or, like people connect because they learn about each other. And I just think that's fantastic. The other thing I try to do is I try to share some embarrassing experiences I've had, mistakes I've made, because I want them to know that this is, everyone's human, like we're all learning and nobody knows everything. And I think that is a message I try to inculcate in the team by starting with myself and sharing how my journey was. And, I've done every different job in tech, and, I like to share that with people. So apart from that, there's a lot of formal education things they can, they have access to. We have a concept of dynamic work. So work is, flexible hours. You can work with your manager. Everybody has, different things in their life, and we try to support that. We try to look for talent that, not necessarily is within our region. We look for the best talent, even if they're not within our territories. We support, fully dynamic work. So yeah, I think it's a really, we try to make it seamless, when someone onboards.
Yes. I mean, who doesn't like to start with free swag? I mean, that alone would be like, okay, this is going to be great. I absolutely love that. And you're right. This is one of the best things that's come from the pandemic, or from this huge shift into remote work for so many companies that were new to it, or were, it was there, but not like their focus. And so it's really, really great to see how many more, people, especially just from our community alone, I've seen, not everybody lives around a big city, not everybody lives in Chicago or the Bay Area or New York or whatever. And so it's really, really great to find out that, like, if you are, living in a flyover state, that potentially you could still be, part of these teams and part of these orgs that are making, such amazing products. So it really is great to know that, like, you're not limited just because you don't live in the right area. Your skills are just as valid, whether they're coming out of Kansas or New York City. So super, super great. And no knock on Kansas, y'all. I've got friends there. One of the things that, before we jump to the next person, Sonali's getting like all of the gold stars from me, because I have not heard the word inculcate in a while. And now I like dropping like the $5 words right there. So now I have to work that back into my vocabulary. So thank you, Sonali. Anto, did you want to touch on this?
I did. Totally agree with the swag, and big shout out to every marketing department that gets this right and makes people feel very welcome from day one. And it gets you more excited as you continue your job. My experience here, and one of the things that I really like, and I have the benefit of just doing this recently, as I have 7 people that I hired this year, and I like community things. Some companies use Teams, we use Slack. So I created a Slack channel for our team for all the new hires, because everybody brings different levels of experience in, and not everyone in my team is located in the same place. So that community that they build, like it's a good morning, how are you doing? How was your day? I'm going to pose a question, not just to Anto, I'm going to pose a question to the group, and it becomes like a group thing. It was a class hiring. It was very much like they've blended together so well. And it's not just on the leader to make sure someone has a good onboarding experience. And a good onboarding experience, in my opinion, it doesn't end in the first week. This is as you go on and you become more confident and you mesh with your company. Our group has done a very good job of this. And what took them to another level, and I crack a smile about it, is that they started calling meetings together where I didn't organize the meeting, and they get together and they bounce ideas off each other. And that's exactly the kind of initiative that you want to see. And people take that initiative when they're comfortable, and you provided a good framework for that. So lots of companies can accomplish that in different ways. This one I found particularly successful, coming from, it's not exactly post-pandemic, I would call it, because there's still some sensitivity there, but at least you get the blend here of, we have our office days, like I'm in the office today, but then there's your home days where you mesh with that Slack or group video chat, where it's not just an agenda. People just it's like a virtual like lunch break or coffee break or something like that. Like those types of things are really important to make people feel comfortable and to integrate. And that's an important part of your onboarding experience.
There we go. Sorry, y'all, I lost my unmute button. Yeah, I mean, as always, I cannot agree strongly enough with what y'all are saying. Now we have about 15 minutes left in today's session, so I want to make sure we're keeping moving through questions. If you have questions that you'd like us to ask of the team members here before you jump into breakouts, then please let us know. Send in those questions, and we will just keep moving through what we wanted to talk about. All right, so this question, I want to make sure we're not going to like bringing down the energy in the room, but it's a very important subject. So yesterday on our last day of our summit, one of the people that we got to speak with is a person who is working on basically like egalitizing or like streamlining reporting when it comes to hate crimes or comes to assaults, that kind of thing, especially when they happen because of racially motivated things. Their focus was on AAPI, but like basically what the program is they're trying to do is to make it so that reporting is easier and it's available in multiple languages, since people that experience hate crimes may or may not have strong English skills, or maybe they're just more comfortable dealing in their native tongue. So one of the things that I want to talk about in regards to your orgs is what kind of safe spaces y'all have in place for reporting things like this, microaggressions, acts of discrimination, things like that. What does that that function look like at your various orgs? Michael, do you want to start us here? And
Sure,
please understand if this isn't something y'all want to talk about.
No. Absolutely. And it's very important. So first and foremost, we, through our EAP, Employee Assistance Program, there is a 1-800 confidential number. So you can report anything in if you'd like to remain anonymous. So I think that's important in terms of people feeling safe. We have a anti-harassment, anti-discrimination policy. And I know that sometimes people are afraid to come forward, but we try as often as we can to, have our employees talk with their HR business partner and know that something will be followed up on. And let them know as well at the beginning of a conversation, if somebody said, I want to report something, but I don't want my name brought into it. And the HR business partner will usually say to them, listen, if you're sharing something with me that I need to act on, I can't necessarily promise you that, we're not going to be able to keep you out of it. We may need to, pull you in as a resource in order to be able to review this. So we try to be very clear and transparent on those conversations so nobody is feeling betrayed. We have an ethics committee. So if there is an issue that is being challenged or there's two sides to every story, it can go before the ethics committee. So there's a lot in place to help people. But I think first and foremost, when you share about safe space, I really think that 800 number, if somebody wants to remain anonymous, that we have that. I also think, like everything else I've said today, is that the conversations are happening. I don't have a clear answer for you in terms of how are we reporting? That's a great question. Is that going to one of our leadership officers that's keeping track of if something has come across as a hate crime or discrimination? I can tell you that a hate crime in our company would be grounds for immediate termination. So we want people to feel supportive. We want people to feel like they can come forward. In some cases, people feel like they're afraid to speak up. So I think, again, the 800 number, and I think people who aren't afraid to speak up have resources with their HR business partners and leadership in the company. And again, part of that anti-harassment and discrimination is when a manager, if you hear something, you have to say something. You are obligated to respond and to act out if you hear something and see something.
Oh, I love that. I love the obligation. I love the ethics committee. That is absolutely so great to hear. Anto, would you like to talk about how this works at Amex?
Sure. I mean, similar to what Michael is saying, there's an ethics outreach. You can do this in a variety of ways. A whistleblower line, if someone's behaving outside of the values of the company, there's definitely immediate accountability for that. I mean, two of the core values of the company are we do what's right and we respect people, and that's how we operate here. Now there things can be presented anonymously through a web form and things like that. And there's a colleague there. We don't call it HR at American Express. We call it the colleague experience group. So there's a colleague labor relations group and things like that, where there's steps that can be done. But the baseline of it is we should be treating each other with respect. And if we lose sight of that, then it's not just the person affected. If you observe something, then it is very important for you to stand up for your colleagues. And I think that's what we do here. And I give our team credit because they make that type of action, if you have to do reporting, they make it easy, which is really important in a difficult situation, because the last thing you need is a bunch of paperwork and red tape and things like that. Like, if there's a problem and you need assistance with that problem, you should be able to access the help as soon as possible. And I think that they've done a very good job of taking care of that. So many companies are approaching this the same way, and I agree with all the approaches that we've said so far.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's incredibly, I mean, you're in an incredibly uncomfortable situation, or, and the last thing that you want to do is create that extra barrier or extra hurdle to reporting, to getting these problems recognized and solved. And so I absolutely, you're definitely on the right track, and I'm loving what I'm hearing from both Dassault and Amex. Sonali, would you like to touch on this? Oh, go ahead, Michael, and then we'll go to Sonali.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say one other thing that I think it's important for any of us, whether it be a peer, leadership, manager. We have to lead these situations with empathy and be able to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and walk a mile in their shoes, because it is so hard for people to come forward. And you also don't know what their experience with, that attack, may or may not be, the hurt or the wounds that are behind it. Recently when we had our session with Stop AAPI Hurt, there was a lot of questions from some of the earlier career professionals in how do they help their family members who may not speak English that are here, especially with results of the hate that was happening during the pandemic. And though I couldn't relate to that, I had to really say, how do I walk in their shoes and how do I lead with empathy for that? You know, I happen to think I have good empathy, but I think sometimes there's even more that we can have. And again, in situations like this, that to me is key in making sure that somebody feels comfortable.
Oof, loving that. You're right. That empathy is absolutely crucial. And even if you've never been in that position before personally, having that respect for what somebody else is going through and giving them that space or that arena to bring this forward and feel comfortable doing it is absolutely invaluable. Sonali, let's talk about how Octa handles this.
Oh yeah, quick. I agree with everything that was shared so far. We at Octa also have an employee relations team, and they are responsible and accessible and available when people want to report any kind of policy violations. Our policies around discrimination or harassment or conflicts of interest are well published. Everybody has access to them. And if anyone wants to report in, or also you may be an observer and you want to report it, it's the employee relations team that you typically reach out to. The other thing I'll mention is, the training. So every employee at Octa goes through HR training. I'm sure all the other companies do the same. That's important. Awareness around, sometimes people don't even know that they should report something. So, how do you kind of make people aware? How do you make people aware of their rights? And how do you kind of talk about it in a healthy way, right? Talk about what bias is, or talk about what discrimination even is, because sometimes people don't identify it. And so I think the training we go through, where we go through scenarios, we go through videos, it's really important because it opens your eyes to a lot of things you may have experienced and you're like, oh, I never said something. So that's the other thing I'll add is our HR training.
Ooh, loving this, Sonali. Thank you for sharing how Octa is handling this as well. All right, so we have 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that we dedicate a little bit of time to talking about the breakout rooms to explain how that works for y'all. It is a new format. We've been testing for a couple months. It seems to get really great traction, but it also is, I'm sure, different than a lot of other virtual job fairs. So we will talk about that. The last thing that I want to ask our partner companies, we're going to do a popcorn round. What are you most excited about that's happening at your org? Literally could be anything. You could be getting a taco bar on Tuesdays. You could be, starting a softball league. You could be doing something incredibly groundbreaking for your, maybe you're providing childcare for your working parents. What are you really excited about at your org coming up soon? Michael, want to start?
Yep. Right now, we're in the midst of our second inclusion and diversity series. So super excited for that. And on a professional and personal note, we're the first time this year we're going to do a Pride event in June. So super excited for that.
Yes! Oh my God, y'all! I am so really ready for Pride, y'all. Really, really, really excited for the kind of our first opportunity, at least several years, to kind of re-celebrate like party like we used to. So absolutely, thank you, Michael. Anto, what are you really excited about with Amex?
I'm excited about our hybrid working model and how I've had 1.5 to 2 years of hiring hundreds of people, and I'm meeting them all for the first time in person. It's like the first day of school feeling every day, and it's amazing. And I really like that. And I'm really looking forward to when possible, like this event may turn into a hybrid event too. So those are things that are happening, that it's just meaningful to me and a lot of my colleagues, where you work really closely together and you actually get to sit down and have the cup of coffee with people. And I really like that. I am focused in a core location in New York, so I do get to see that. But that type of sporadic, impromptu meetings that bring up certain ideas that you haven't thought about before are really exciting. I've seen it like a dozen times already so far. So really excited about that. Like, it's a return to a relative normalcy.
Yes. And I'm loving your descriptor of like the first day of school feeling, because like I've only gotten to meet maybe 6 people from Power to Fly, which, as you all know, is not even like 10% of our workforce. And so you're right. It is like, it's that kind of excitement of like, oh, I get to meet them in person. Like, it's really, really great. I love this. All right, Sonali, what are you most excited about for Octa?
It may sound like a small thing, but I have 2 new employees starting in 2 weeks, and I am pumped to take them to lunch, because that's something I haven't done in 2.5, 3 years. I mean, there are people I haven't met on my team, which sounds like so ridiculous. But in the larger sense, I would say I'm most excited about getting back to in-person events, which we've started to do. We have our we acquired another company called Auth0 about a year back, and that's again new teams, new people. We're going to have our first ever sales engineering training together in October in Mexico. We will have more than 400 sales engineers there, meeting for the first time, collaborating, and spending like 3-4 days together. So I'm like super excited about that.
This has been wonderful. I love spending time with y'all. And I'm so happy to get to share what makes your orgs so amazing with our community. It makes me so happy.